Hello, welcome to another video of heuristic algorithms. In this video I'm going to demonstrate the principles of programming macros in Excel. We can implement the algorithms that we are going to cover during the course in other languages, but I just find programming in Visual Basic for Excel very easy to do. So let's begin. To begin with, everything that we type in as a set of commands in Excel could be saved as a macro, and that was the original concept back in the day when spreadsheet started with Lotus as opposed to Excel. And the main idea is that you will have a shortcut that will perform these activities for you. So let's say that you have any cell, and here I'm just typing my name, and maybe I'm typing other information, which could be some numbers that I would like to keep associated with my name. And for some reason it is convenient. I'm repeating a series of operations associated with some of the data. Maybe I have somebody else's data. That I need to keep track of, and one of the most basic operations that you would do is maybe move the data or copy this data to some other place. So let's say that it is convenient for me to move this information a few columns to the right. So, but I'm going to be doing that several times. In this case, I just have two names and two numbers. But it might be that I'm going to be doing this many times, and I want to save myself some time. So what I'm going to do is I am going to create a macro. So here in the top view menu we have macros, and I can record the first macro. In order to execute the macro, I'm going to press Ctrl, and then I can select the letter or the key that I want to use for executing the macro. So it could be Q, or it could be if I press Shift and Q, it will be a capitalized Q. But let's just say that I just use Q, and this is going to store it in this workbook, and I don't need to type any description, but you could if you need to. Now everything that I do is being recorded from this moment on. So what I do is I select these two cells, and then I am pressing Ctrl C right now to copy, and I'm going to move to 3 cells to the right. I'm going to press Ctrl V, and that's the macro. That's all the macro that I want, and I'm going to stop recording. So I'm going to macros, stop recording. So now I have created a macro that would do this for me, and right now the way that it is set up will only execute the macro for the cells that are C3 and C4. In other words, if I change the name here to a different set of numbers, I can press now Ctrl Q. I'm pressing Ctrl Q, and it went to that particular cells, or those two particular cells, C3 and C4, and copied 3 cells to the right. And I can save myself the Ctrl C displacing and Ctrl V steps by shortening that into a single set of keys to be executed, Ctrl Q. These macros do not have to be very short. They can be thousands of lines, and that's where the real benefit comes through. Now it would be very difficult to save thousands of steps just one at a time, because when we go selecting what should I do, just like when I was typing the name a few minutes ago, you hesitate. So it is convenient that you purge or debug your macro step by step, and you have the opportunity to do that by accessing the editor for your macros. If you press Alt F11 in Excel, you will be able to bring the Visual Basic editor on top of your screen, and this is how it looks like. And it has a menu that you will learn how to use. Here you have 3 buttons to play, have a pause, or stop the macro, and you can actually track in these watches. You can actually track the values of specific variables as the program goes executing, and this area here usually is devoted to see your code. I select in modules, module 1, and right there I have my macro. And the macro is very simple. It is just the selection of the cells C3 and C4, and using that selection it will copy that selection, and then it will select the cell F3 and it will paste. Now you might think, I'm not gonna remember any of these. Well, you don't have to memorize any of these, just as I don't, but you can use them, because once you have them, you understand what's happening. All you need to do is, well, if you need to do this exact same set of steps, all you need to do is refer to other set of cells, in the case that those were absolute cells. And what I mean by absolute cells is it will always go to C3 and C4. It will always go to C3 and C4. Of course, the problem is that if I want to use it somewhere else in the spreadsheet, then, for instance, if I wanted to use the same program now to copy cells in C6 and C7 to F6 and F7, I cannot use that macro. And the reason for that is because when I recorded the macro, I had not selected use relative references. The relative references makes the macro start with respect to my initial position, not to the specific cell in which I am. In other words, in this case, it was not selected, it's using absolute references, and it will always start in C3 and C4. So I can start a new macro, and but this time, before I record the macro, I select that option. So now you can see there's a little orange frame around this box, which is making sure that I'm now using a relative reference. And if I record a macro, let's say that now it's Ctrl W, and I am here, I select these two, I press Ctrl C, displays 2 columns, and I go Ctrl V. All that is being recorded, and I stop the recording process. And now let's say that I have a different name and a different set of numbers, and I position myself in that cell. I can press now Ctrl W, and that will execute exactly where I am. It doesn't matter if I'm there, I will execute it again. Why? Because what it's doing is from the starting position, it will displace my target for copying a couple of cells to the right. If you want to look at the code is going to be again in Alt F11 as a second macro. but now you have a macro that looks like a little different, which is from the active cell, select A1 and A2. That's a relative reference, that is from the active cell. Whatever you are now, go to that position, and then from the active cell, offset means go to 0 rows 3 columns to the right and select that cell, and then copy your or paste your contents in there. So this is a very first example on how to use macros. I hope you find it useful.